Yo, what up, everybody? We ain't gonna waste no time. We got 450 people already on the live, so we're gonna get to it. So let's start the show. Today we got Billy, man.
It's like this and like that, and no, I always get the scoop. Rest in peace to Fat Man, black fit in a black coupe. Fly, Batman at the edition, all white, about to eat something like Pac-Man. Courtside, watching Brian, getting all the stats, man. I'm that man in the booth, stacking paper, and that's facts, man. Yeah, I pray to Jesus Christ, but don't you try to play me. I'm money like the Suns with Devin Booker, Pastor Katie. Or when Mamba played the Raptors and you went 1/80. I fly like a...
Yo, what up, everybody? It's time for another episode of the Red Zone, where we come to you. We're gonna tell you how to make more money. We're gonna tell you how to be more healthy, be more fit, man, and get the mindset that's gonna unlock your potential. Today, I'm super excited. We got my boy Todd Billy, Charles Oglesby, aka Todd the Millionaire. He's gonna be teaching us about his options course success, and we're gonna get into some stuff that might seem controversial to people, but we're just going to share how we think and how we feel about the political climate and the world today. Billy, what's up, man?
Man, what's going on, brother? This is we're in the red zone.
A Red Zone, we in here. Hey, we got to give you a reward, man. You got the best hairline on the planet, especially. I be like, yo, Vic be posting your cuts. I be like, yo, I need to go to Turkey so I can get my hairline up, man. What can I do to get my hairline like yours, dog?
Consistent haircuts, man. I get cut once a week. So I'm never not fresh. I always say I never want to not look like I just got a cut, so I keep it cut.
Yeah, I feel you. And like, I just follow. You're just my favorite person to follow. Like, you have an eye for detail, or better to say is the way you look at the world is real inspiring to me. Like how you'll post a car going by or just things you say. And one of the things you said, one of the things you tweeted was like, man, consistent haircuts, man. You want to be a millionaire? You gotta have consistent haircuts. And Dion says, you look good, you feel good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good. So chime in on that, man. Just chime in on how you consistently put out content and how you look at things.
Man, that's a lot because we're talking content, we're talking haircuts. I'll start from like just haircut, appearance, all that stuff. I think that what's very interesting about your appearance is a lot of times like the way you're groomed carries everything. Mm-hmm. So you could be looking bummy with a fresh cut and all of a sudden you don't look very bummy. Mm-hmm. Or you could be dressed very well and your hair could be rough and all of a sudden that outfit doesn't look as fly.
Yeah.
So I've always noticed that like having your hair done, having your hair cut, having a fresh cut carries everything. Yeah. I don't know why it's like that. I just know it is. Yeah. In terms of just like posting content, sharing things that I'm inspired by. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I do it. I just know that I enjoy doing it. It keeps me motivated. I remember this one time I was in Long Beach and we were just walking down. We saw this Bentley. And I told my mom, I was like, take a picture of me in front of this Bentley. Yeah. And she took a picture of me in front of the Bentley. And then I posted on Instagram. And there's this person that followed me. And she's like, man, black folks always taking pictures in front of cars they'll never drive and never own. And then lo and behold, like a few years ago, I was over there whipping a Bentley in Atlanta. And I was like, how you like me now? Yeah. And so I think it's part of me is like the manifestation concept. You got to get in the spaces, you got to get around the spaces, you got to get exposed to the spaces, and then pretty soon those spaces will be your spaces. Yeah. And a lot of people, what they do is they'll just assume that it'll never be theirs or they've never been exposed to it, so they don't even know it exists. And I want a lot of things. I want a lot. And so I'm intentionally putting those things in place for me to keep me inspired, to keep me motivated, to keep me driven because it's not easy out here. Yeah. It's a lot of late nights. It's a lot of weekends. It's a lot of evenings. It's a lot of no holidays. And if you don't know what you're going after, it's going to be hard to stay motivated while you're going through all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. I think just after you're saying it, I think I just realized why I love it is because most people, when they see success, they hate. And I've seen you before the success and after the success. You was never a hater. You was just like, I got to get that. Like, it was just like you posted like I got to get that, got to figure it out. Like it's always been your brand, and I think what's dope about it is your brand is you. You don't have to fake it or anything like that. Um, but I got a bunch of stuff I want to touch on, so I want to dive right into it. The options trading, kind of give the story about how you blew up during COVID, and then can you share with us the pivotal moment that led you to specialize in options?
So, man, it's a lot. Um,
Mhm.
I would say the very first piece of that is saying yes to everything. So before I even got into creating courses, somebody asked me to teach on their platform. I
Yeah.
never taught on their platform, and so I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so I taught a class on their platform. I learned how to create a course. I learned how to break things up into subjects. I
Mhm.
learned that people were getting value from the things that were in my brain, my experience, my education,
Yeah.
the application of my education to real life problems. And my first course was on long distance real estate investing. And we had a good amount of people in there. People were hitting me up, asking me
Mhm.
questions, and he paid me whatever he paid me. And so after that, I was like, all right, person who allowed me to go on your platform, I got another course I want to put out on your platform, but I want to approach this a different way. I don't
Mhm.
want you to pay me per episode. I want a percentage of the sales. I want
Yeah.
to I want to benefit on the upside, not just the flat fee.
Yeah.
And he ended up being like, "Oh, nah, that's not how I do it. That's not my business model." We're still friends to this day. Literally just talked to him like a few days ago. But what I did is I was like, "All right, I'm gonna just create that same course that I was gonna put on your platform, and I'm gonna just launch it myself. Put it
Yeah.
out, launched it, and I sold a good amount of copies.
Mhm.
And so then what I did is I was just thinking, I was like, man, all right, I got two courses on real estate. What else do I know about that I could share and package up in this easy form of packaging it up, recording the content, creating the slides, all that,
Mhm.
and then uploading it to a digital platform that allow people to go on and buy it.
Yeah.
And so I just started creating course after course after course. Because I have a significant amount of education. My undergrad degree is in finance. I've worked
Mhm. I
as a
didn't know
financial
that.
advisor, a licensed financial advisor, Series 7 stockbroker.
Mhm.
I worked in private banking, so I work with high net worth private bank clients. Um, then I ended up going to law school, so I have like this unique situation where I have finance knowledge and then legal knowledge, but also have the experience to go through and learn. So another really big thing is when I was in my MBA program, like every class has a presentation. So every
Mhm.
class you have to create slides, you got to do presentations. I started to realize like a course is nothing but a master's presentation.
Yeah.
And so I just created a bunch of things, and there's this book that I was really big on at the time and still am. It's called the 10X Rule.
Yeah.
So the 10X Rule is a book that I'm really big on, and the other book is called Choose Yourself. Um, and Choose Yourself kind of taught me the things about building a brand. So there's a lot of things that went into the courses that I was selling and the products that I was putting out. A lot of people just think like, oh, you just put out products, you just create a course. No,
Mhm.
I had a blog. I was writing a blog every single day. What I would do is I would turn that blog into an email. I'd send that email out. Then I would chop up that blog and that email, and I'll turn it into individual Twitter posts. And then what I would do is I would screenshot those Twitter posts and turn it into an Instagram post, a
Yeah.
carousel Instagram post. And so my goal at that time was to be omnipresent, to build a brand that was everywhere.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of work that went into that. Not only that, I also had a podcast. And so I had a podcast. I was recording multiple episodes per week. And
Tweet
of course, what
talks.
do? You chop that podcast up. You create micro content. You put it on Twitter. You put it on Instagram. Um, you put it on all platforms. So you're on Spotify. You're on Apple Music. You're on all those different platforms. So I literally was just canvassing the world with my brand.
Yeah.
And then what happened is the world shut down. And when the world shut down, I didn't realize that everything was open, everything was closed but the stock market. But the stock market had tanked substantially in March of 2020. Once it was
Mhm.
March of 2020. And so what happens when the stock market crashes is the only place the stock market can go is up. And so I had this course. What I originally priced it at was $900, and I made some good sales at $900. But I had this genius idea of making it affordable. I made it affordable. I was pricing this product that I had originally priced at 900 at $100. And what happened is people started buying the course for $100. They would go put $100 in the stock market, and with options trading, the ROIs are so lucrative, especially when you're in a good position where the stock market was. These people are doubling, tripling their money the very next day. And so I didn't even know what I had on my hands until I started getting the reviews. A lot of people started giving me reviews. They're like sending me DMs like, bruh, like I made my money back the next day. I made my money back the next day. And so then what I realized is it's not enough to market your product. You got to market the success of your customers who have used your product. Yeah. And so then I started leveraging that. And so I would never really promote what I did unless I was promoting a testimonial along with it. Mm-hmm. And the testimonials and showing people having success, showing the time span of people having success, converting the information to success. That's really what helped it kind of blow up.
Yeah. And that actually leads to my next question. But before we get into it real quick, man, we got Billy, man. We talking about mastering money, building mills, man. He's going to teach us how to trade, what to do with our money. We're going to lock into some stuff. So if you're on YouTube, make sure you guys ask questions. There is 1,119 people on here and only 3 likes. So like the video. Are we going to turn it off,
119 in the red zone.
In the red zone. And y'all ain't liking the video, man. Like the video. That led
like,
to my
share,
next
subscribe,
question. All of
drop
that.
It on your Twitter.
Success stories. What is the most inspiring success story that came from your options course when you were like, dang, like this really it? Like somebody really made significant money, or just something that surprised you?
There's so many that I would say this is the one that stands out the most. So the cool thing about like everything I've experienced is I've met a lot of people across the country who have bought the course, found success. And so whenever I'm at a conference, I'm getting stopped, I'm getting testimonials. I have a whole reel of just testimonials that I've chopped up on my Instagram page, is pinned to the top. Mm-hmm. But the most amazing thing to me is seeing local people who have been impacted by anything that I've done. And so the thing is when you do what I was doing, which was essentially 10xing, I was 10xing, and I'm still 10xing, and the goal is to go back and 10x the law brand, because I'll be building my own law firm soon, is you never know who's going to be touched by whatever you're putting out. Mm-hmm. And so I have people that'll stop me and they're like, man, that podcast is great. I'm like, which podcast? Oh, the Millionaire Podcast. Another person was like, oh, the Tweet Talk Podcast is my favorite. Like, bring the Tweet Talk Podcast back. It's a lot of letters in there. Yeah. And so I was riding my scooter around the neighborhood that I live in, and this guy stops me, and he's like, Todd, and he's out there, and there's like 2 daughters are out there, and he's like, man, he was like, I just want to thank you. He was like, I was trading options, and my options trade allowed me to get the money for the down payment on this house. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, it's one thing to like see people get money, buy sneakers, go on trips, but to see somebody take some information that you put out there at an affordable price and be able to buy their family a home in Southern California, where it's very difficult to buy homes, was a big thing to me. That I think that will be the biggest success story that I've seen, or the most impactful success story that I've seen. But in a lot of ways, and I haven't really said this, I've kind of changed stock market investing for everybody. A lot of people that you see online who are doing really, really well in the stock market are doing well because of stock options. And they didn't know about stock options until I introduced them to stock options, respectfully. Yeah. So you see Wall Street Trapper. He wasn't talking about stock options until I was talking about stock options. He applied that stock option knowledge to his stock knowledge. Now the guy's out there buying big-ass buildings in Atlanta. Yeah. Aristotle, he wasn't talking stock options until I was talking stock options. He was talking the stock market. He then took that information and applied it to what he was doing. He blew up. Chris Johnson wasn't talking stock options until I was talking stock options. He took that information, built the Wealth Squad, now he's doing crazy things. And so my reach is long, but I think that the interesting thing about it is sometimes when you, even though I've found success in that space, there are people who took what I took and just took it all the way to the moon. Yeah. And so kudos to those dudes, because they're changing the culture. They're putting out even more content. They're doing great stuff in the stock market. Whenever I see them, it's always respect and love. I'm just happy that the culture got a hold of, because that was the whole point in the first place.
Yeah.
If it wasn't about the culture, it wouldn't have been affordably priced, and so that's what it's all about.
Yeah, man, I feel you. Um, all right, so you know, what would you advise traders to well, before we go there, given the current economic climate, I think it has to, for lack of better terms, crash eventually. Um, I think it'll be best. I think they'll try to do it on this guy's head so they can blame him. Um, but what are your predictions for the options market over the next year, 2025?
The stock market's in a really weird place because everything is so high. Um, and so for me, I'm a value investor. I'm looking for opportunities. And I think anybody who's actually an investor, an intelligent investor, if you've ever read the book, The Intelligent Investor is about value investing. It's not very intelligent to buy something high and hope it goes higher. It's intelligent to buy something that is should be high that you can buy on a discount. Unfortunately, right now there's not a lot of discounts out there. I'm always looking for different opportunities. I just don't see them right now, and so
Yeah.
I'm essentially just holding on to what I have. Um, I think that there are certain options positions that you can open up that take advantage of a flat market or take advantage of a slow rising market. But to
Mhm.
capitalize on any large swings in any one way is going to be very difficult. It's going to be tough to find something that's going to swing heavily downward or
Mhm.
heavily upward, and that's essentially what you're looking for with options, um, in my opinion.
What up, young king?
You say hi.
Hi. Um, I also admire how you are as a father. You're just great. And you're able to be present because you're able to make money on how you think. So that just reminded me when he jumped on. So you kind of touched on its risk management. So right now it seems like you're being patient as risk management. So I'll kind of switch my question because you explained
Hold
that.
on, I got to make one point. I
Yeah.
think one of the issues with a lot of people is they think they always have to be active in the market,
Yeah.
and if they're not active in the market, that they're not like an investor. Like they have to always be looking for this next new hot thing, whatever's hot.
Hmm.
Sometimes you just got to be patient. Some of my best positions, I'm in Meta right now. It's up like over 220%.
Hmm.
All I did was be patient. If I was over here zigging and zagging when the market was going up and down, I probably would have lost money.
Yeah.
And so when I bought Meta, it got cut in half. When I bought Meta, it was already cut in half. Then
Yeah.
I bought it, and then it got cut in half again. And I just wrote it out, and now that 50% loss is a 220% gain on the original investment, which is amazing. And so I think that like sometimes you just got to find something good and write it out.
Yeah. What so how does your brain work when you're looking for these opportunities? So you one thing I learned from you is you're not just looking at patterns in the ups and downs on the graphs. You understand business and you understand the graphs and you kind of put those together. So if someone's looking for opportunities as they're being patient, what go through your quick framework of how you look.
So there's a lot that goes to it. Um, to in a simple form, I'm looking for good companies that are in a bad situation.
Mhm.
Um, Most recently, we saw a lot of AI companies get hit
Yeah.
because of the whole China news, and so you have to kind of be in tune of what the news is. It's like you have to have vision, but you also have to be able to see what's actually going on around you. So I'm always looking for high quality companies. You're going to look at a high quality company based off of their financials.
Mhm.
Are they beating earnings? Do they have cash on the balance sheet? Do they have low debt? Are they projected to grow? Are they innovating? So you look at companies like Tesla, you look at companies like Amazon, you look at companies like Meta, and you really understand like what are these companies doing? Are they successful in doing it?
Mhm.
Um, and then you got to look at their stock price over time. So you want to look at, is this company growing? Is it going down in value? So you're looking at the chart over different time frames. You're not just
Yeah.
looking at one chart for the 5 year time frame. You also want to look at what it's doing short term on a 1 month chart, on a 3 month chart, on a 6 month chart, on a 1 year chart.
Mhm.
You're looking at all different time frames to kind of get a general idea of
Mhm.
everything that's going on. A lot of people, what they do is they look at day trade. They look at like the day chart,
Yeah.
and they're trying to essentially determine what it's going to do on a day to day basis. I don't think that you can do that because and this is why I don't trade options on like a short term like that, is because you never really know what's going to happen short term, but you always know what's going to happen long term. So you can look at a stock that might trend down for 3 months, but if the overall progress of the chart is up, there's a high indication that over the long term that position is going to go up. So now you're going to buy contracts that have a long expiration period. It's a lot easier to be right over time than it is to be right now. A lot of people want to be right now, and that's true on everything that they do. They want success right now. They're not willing to wait 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years and consistently put money into that position while they're waiting. And so for me, I'm always looking at quality companies that are getting beat up. I'm not really too big on those pie in the sky ideas. I've seen too many of those get promoted and get shot down. I remember during like COVID times, people were talking about Neo. People were talking about all these different companies that never panned out. The problem is when you buy companies that are just new, up and coming, and projected to grow, even if they're doing well right now, they're still gonna have to come down to reality of what their earnings are. Yeah. Because that's what really drives the stock. The stock is how much money are you making? What's your net number? How much are you going to grow that number? It all has to come down to the facts. Everybody has to report their earnings, their numbers every single quarter. Yeah. And so if you're just over here saying what will be, yeah, you can buy that, you can sell that for a little while, but you're going to have to come down reality. So I want to get that company that's consistently reporting numbers, because the same is true as well. If you have a good company that's getting beat up by bad press, and then they report earnings and they're like, nah, actually it's kind of popping over here, the market has to correct up. Yeah. And so that's what I like to do. I like to buy that misinformation where people are forecasting doom and gloom. Even with COVID, like we benefited during COVID because we didn't buy into the doom and gloom. Yeah. When they were doom and glooming, we had our foot on the gas. Yeah. And that's just how I see everything. I'm a contrarian in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And they actually put out counterintelligence to make the market go a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Like I know people who are on sports news and they'll go on shows like First Take and they'll say, yo, I don't think they'll do well. I think they're trash, when really they're betting for them to win. And so you have to know exactly where to go look. You kind of touched on it, technology.
And you also have to be able to, you have to be able to generate an original thought. A lot of people, all they do is pair it with somebody else is saying. A lot of people, when they're buying stocks and they're investing, they're waiting for somebody to tell them what to buy. A lot of people, when they're picking who they're going to vote for, they're waiting for somebody to tell them who they're going to vote for. They're not looking at everything, applying it to knowledge that they've obtained and saying, this is the way I see this and the way I'm going to move. Yeah. And you have to do that in the stock market, because if you're following what everybody else is doing, you're going to be late. You got to get there before the move happens. And you got to be out before the other move happens. And so in order to do that, when everybody's saying this thing is so great, but you know maybe it isn't that great, it might be time to take some profits. Or when they're saying, oh, this is so bad, you have to think, maybe it's not so bad. And that's when you buy in. And that's how you master the buy and the sell. That's one thing that I learned when I first started investing. I would buy the green stuff and I just kept getting clapped. I kept losing. I was like, man, but it's good. It's great. They're saying all these good things. And then what I realized is like, all right, let me flip this on this head and start buying the red. When I see red, let's buy that. And I did that. And lo and behold, I started making money. I was like, this is crazy. Yeah. There's this thing called regression toward the mean, where if something's too high, it's going to regress towards the mean. If something's too low, it's going to regress towards the mean. It's going to always find that middle point. And that's a lot of what charting is as well, is finding what that average is and buying and selling according to the average.
So how do you think technology is going to play a role in this? Like my boy today was like, hey, I'm trying to use ChatGPT operator to do my trading for me, da 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 da. How do you think that's going to, is it going to throw a wrench into things? How do you think things change?
I really don't know. Anything that I say will be speculative.
Yeah.
But maybe it becomes more accessible. Right now, these big companies are using software. They are using technology. They're doing all that stuff based off of algorithms. Yeah. It's the little guys that aren't doing it, that don't have access to it. So I think if anything, it becomes more accessible, it becomes more affordable. And still, you have to program what you're using. So just like ChatGPT, like if you're an idiot and you're using ChatGPT, you don't know what to input into the prompt, you're not going to get what you need.
Exactly.
But if you know intelligently what to put in. So there still needs to be some intelligence applied to the technology. The technology doesn't do all the work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's not going to replace it. It might make the barrier a little bit lower, and it might make it more accessible to the common man in terms of affordability. But I think that it'll still require some skill and some knowledge.
Okay. What advice would you have someone who's starting out in options trading besides besides obviously they should go grab your course. It's affordable and we have that here. We're going to pull that up. Affordable financial literacy stuff and everything you've put on film. Um but what else could they do?
I would say that you need to understand the stock market. Um, the stock market is like it's like what's a fast car? The stock market is like a Porsche, but options trading is like a Ferrari.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people just want to hop right in the Ferrari. Like, let's learn how to ride the stock market first. Learn how to trade in the stock market where the downside is a little bit less. So with options, the thing that happens is the upside is very lucrative, but the
Mhm.
downside is very lucrative. So let's hypothetically say you put $1,000 into an option trade.
Mhm.
On the upside, you can multiple X your money. You can double, triple your money. On the downside, you could lose it all. Because if an option contract expires out of the money, it expires worthless. If an option contract is not able to be exercised for a profit, it is therefore worth nothing unless you sell it before expiration and get something out of it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you're investing $1,000 into the stock market on the same trade, yeah, you might not double, triple your money. You might make 20%. You might make 30%. But on the downside, if you lose, you might lose 20 to 30%, but you didn't lose everything. So that
Okay.
$1,000, if you win, it's not going to be as crazy. But if you lose, it's not going to be as crazy. The thing is once you understand how to successfully predict those 20 and 30% moves, now you can put that into options. Now those options trades on the upside are going to do very well. They're going to do so well that you can afford to take some losses every now and then. And so I think that the most important thing is to understand the stock market. If you want to trade, if you want to day trade, if you want to read charts, all that stuff is cool. But in the beginning, I think the best thing to do is just stick with the stock market in general. Don't try to hop right to options,
Yeah.
because what'll happen is you'll take your lumps in the stock market, and what'll happen is you'll reassess. You'll say, "What did I do wrong there?" You'll start watching videos. You'll start spotting like, "Oh, okay, I
Mhm.
need to move a little bit faster. I need to move a little bit later. I need to maybe layer my positions and buy some now and buy some a little bit later." Whatever you kind of adapt to and realize, you get to do it kind of with the training wheels on while still participating in the same stock market, because it's the same stocks. If you
Yeah.
buy Tesla stock, same thing as buying Tesla options. The move is the move is the move. The only difference is the consequences are a little bit different.
Mhm. That's huge. That's huge. Let's go macro, like globally, based on AI and everything. Um, what do you see as the best opportunity right now for the future? You got Nvidia's, you got China company put it into all of that, and it's, with DeepSeek, you know me. Like soon as it came out, I went deep diving on it. Like you can put it on your computer locally. People are like, "Oh, they're gonna steal your information." No, you could it's open. You could put it on your computer locally and use it like it's yours. Like that powerful of an AI. And so, and Sam Altman came out, the CEO of Open, and said that they might have made a mistake by closing it. Elon was on their head about that. What do you think's the best opportunities moving forward, or would you say just be patient?
Man, in a lot of ways, I'm not really sure in terms of like new and innovative tech. Um, I couldn't even tell you what I think is set to pop.
Yeah,
Um, I'm in a lot of long term positions. I'm not actively really watching the market like that. I watch my portfolio,
yeah,
but I'm not actively looking for new things. Um, so I'm in a lot of quality companies, but even still, let's just hypothetically say that you were going to look for whatever that next big thing is. I think the best thing you can do is split whatever you're going to invest into, whatever you presume are going to be the best next big thing, into like five piles. So pick five things. Let's hypothetically say you have $10,000. I will put 2,000 into each of those five things. Two of those are going to be terrible. One of those will be average. Two of those will do very, very well and they'll fly.
Mhm.
And so I think that we have to accept that we can't predict the future. I know a lot of people would like to make us think that we can predict the future, but you can't. But you can position yourself for the future. And so you position yourself through that diversity of exposure. Um, I think that will be the most intelligent thing to do. I think if somebody wants to make people think they're so smart, they'll say, "Man, this is it.
Yeah.
Well, this right here is it. You got to buy
Yeah.
this." And you never know. Not only do you never know when.
Yeah.
And so it might be 5, 10 years from now. There were companies that people called out. I remember I kind of bought up into the hype of trying to predict things. And I was like, man, I'm going to invest in these cannabis companies because these cannabis companies, Joe Biden gets in office, Kamala's in office, like they're going to deregulate, they're going to
Yeah.
declassify these,
You could do whatever drug you want.
and they're going to legalize cannabis federally.
Yeah.
4 years later, it never happened.
Mm.
And so that was a mistake. I feel like the safest way is just value investing. The richest. I didn't invent this. It doesn't sound sexy.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound sexy. People want to hear buy that new
Sexy.
hot tech, buy that new hot
Yeah.
this. But what happened is I used to think like that. Like a lot of people who think like that don't realize it's an immature way of investing. It's an immature way of looking at building wealth and making money in the stock market. And that's what I did. And when I did that, what I did is I went back and I got in the lab and I started researching Warren Buffett. I started researching Benjamin Graham. I started researching people who really did well in the stock market. And that's where I stumbled upon value investing. It's not sexy,
Yeah.
but being Warren Buffett's pretty damn, I think, sexy. No diddy. Like, the guy's the richest stock market investor in the world. Why wouldn't you want to emulate what he's doing instead of emulating what your homeboy told you to do down the street who don't know nothing, who ain't never did nothing? He'll never tell you about his losses. It's a lot of people on the internet talking about stocks who never tell you about the wrong calls they made.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. All right, we're gonna make a quick turn real quick. Everyone who's on the live, still got about 1,000 people on. Olivia hopped in. She was there earlier. She said that's good AI bots. But I want to make a shift into some of the just dope things that you say. And I wanted to ask, and here's one of your tweets.
Tweet
Um,
talk.
Tweet talk. People ask why I post relationship content on the money page because all the money talk and relationships still in the trash. Get your foundation together. And my question was, you've often discussed how success is a team sport. Can you share your thoughts on the role of marriage in achieving success? And you're obviously an example. And this was actually something I disagree because you know when you hear the truth, sometimes it bothers you, and then sometimes you gotta look like, man, I gotta find a wife, man. And he right. And so, can you touch on that?
I think that, man, I didn't make this up. I don't make nothing up. I don't make anything up. What I do is my goal is success.
Yeah.
And so I look at successful people and I look at successful cultures and I look outside of my culture. I'm not willing to just live and abide by the culture that I was birthed into just because that's the culture I was birthed into.
Man, you
And
talking.
so in my professional experience, I've worked in a lot of different climates. And you start to spot a lot of things when you look at wealthy people. I saw somebody post a stat and they were like, yeah, if you look at the CEOs, like 90% of them are married. Fortune 500 CEOs. If you look at the last however many presidents since like the 1800s, all of them were married.
Yeah.
And so I was like, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something to this whole marriage thing. And I even saw it like in my parents' relationships. Like I saw when my mom and dad were together, when they got divorced, and I saw my mom got remarried. And I saw what our life looked like once they got remarried.
Yeah.
And so I just realized that all of the successful people that I wanted to be like were married. I didn't really realize like a lot of the benefits that come like truly manifest because I mean, single me was struggling, man. Single me was living at home with his parents.
Yeah.
Single me was driving beat up cars.
Yeah.
And married me, it's way different. It's
Yeah.
way different. A lot of people think they're giving up something, but really they're gaining a lot. And if you look at a lot of the people on the internet who are doing really well, a lot of them are married. If you look at the solid brothers in the NBA, they're married. LeBron James, Steph Curry. But I think what's interesting is they had fathers who were in the league who advised them to get married young.
Yeah.
Because imagine the kind of nonsense you could be having to deal with if you didn't take that approach.
Yeah.
Look at Steph Curry and look at Tyreek Hill. Or look at all these other dudes out there with all these kids, about all these women, having a debate about child support, paying all this money just for a woman to live and calling it child support.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at what's right in front of your face, the truth is right there.
Yeah.
The truth is right there. And so there's a lot of Bible that goes into it. There's a lot of books that have gone into it. But I think that having a stable, solid foundation that doesn't move allows you to build. And if you're constantly from one relationship to the next, you're not on a solid foundation.
Not. And
Sometimes
you could
you
just
might have a good
focus.
partner. Sometimes you might have a bad partner. Sometimes you might have some nonsense. Sometimes you might have whatever that looks like. And so I think that would probably be the best thing. I think that kind of goes to what I said, is work on the foundation.
Yeah.
Like, just get that piece. And then you'll realize there's a lot of things that you might be going after while you're out there chasing these women that might not even be worth going after. Yeah. And you'll also see that, like, it's so much better when you can go deeper with one person, when you can build what I call relationship equity. I was riding home tonight and we got a reservation for Valentine's Day. And I was like, we've run out of steakhouses to go to. Now we got to figure out a new steakhouse.
I got one for you, but keep going.
And so I was like, we've run out of steakhouses. We've been to all the ones that I've always aspired to go to when I was in college. When I got out of college, I was like, man, that's what I'm be able to go to a steakhouse, order if I want to order, drink whatever I want to drink, that kind of stuff. But I don't get there if I don't commit to one woman, if I don't commit to my family, to all of those things. So I think that the reason why I made that tweet, and the reason why I still stand by that statement, is a lot of the issues in our community would be solved if folks just, like, build stable 2-parent homes.
Yeah.
Build stable relationships. Because that's, like, really all they had to do. That was their big motive. The big motive for the government was, bruh, how do we destroy the black family?
Yeah. Break up the nuclear
How do we destroy
family?
the black family?
It's a wrap.
And then what's worse is I saw people get money and just be like shitty people with money. And so I realized, like, man, I used to think the money was the solution. I used to think all my people had to do was get black wealth. And they got black wealth. And they didn't even really do nothing with it.
It's marriage. It's family.
So it's a lot of rambling, but hopefully I made some points in there.
That's clutch. That clutch. And you actually went to my next question is, how has success influenced your personal relationship in your marriage and family, both positively and negatively?
So I would say positively is just being able to improve everybody's situation in whatever way. It's not like everybody driving nice cars and stuff, but being able to expose a lot of people to different things, being able to take people places, being able to, if they have an emergency, be able to step in when they have an emergency. If they want to buy a house, we can talk about that. In a lot of ways, like, I mean, something small as my cousin came out here to go to a football game, and we went to a football game and we'll park right at the front, sitting right down there, going out where we want to eat, took him through LA, riding around in the whip, all that stuff. And it's like, I was able to kind of elevate the experiences of people around me.
Yeah.
Even with my dad, like, I go to Atlanta, I take my dad to a basketball game, we're going to playoff games, we're going to Charger games at the Falcon Stadium, that kind of stuff. So being able to kind of like expose people to things they probably would not have been able to expose themselves to. The other thing on the downside is, you kind of don't want to be that person all the time. Like, you don't want to be somebody's like escape clause.
Yeah.
So they don't got to do the work. They don't have to make the sacrifice. It's just like, yeah, just make a phone call real quick. It's like, nah, we gotta dead that. Also, people that you never really had a relationship with, who were part of your family, trying to then slide back in and
Try
kind
to
of
pull
like
it
buddy
back up.
buddy,
You wasn't shooting with me in the gym?
right? Um, and then I would say like what the unfortunate thing is people that you thought were good end up showing that they're not good. Like people that like Drake said it. He said they loved it. Oh, what did he say? He was like, people like you more when you're working towards, not when you have it.
Yeah.
And so it's like I've had people who like will say the most outlandish things. I never said nothing bad about them. They just say the most outlandish people that you're close to, people that like you grew up with, and you start to realize like, man, like how did they really think this entire time?
Yeah.
How did they think this entire time? But you can't really get caught up on that because like the goal was to win, not to just have friends and family.
Yeah.
And if they change, they just got to go, man, because we're not going to be unsuccessful to make people like us.
Yeah.
And so I would say, like, I really have experienced it. I've experienced people very close to me change, and people very close to me say some crazy stuff, have crazy entitlement,
Yeah.
and just not even understand how ridiculous they're being. Um, I would say, like, that's what I've experienced.
Yeah. Um, given your financial expertise, how do you feel about hedging marriage, like prenups and things of that sort? Me, I personally believe, hey, we locked in. Like that bond, that covet, that marriage, that I really believe in that. Um, but what's your take on it? And just
So
finances with couples, period.
I think that it depends a lot on when she came into the picture.
Yeah.
So if this is somebody who had been down for a while, everything that you got is really yours combined 50-50. But I think that if you, Roy Red, have done the work, you built what you built. I was watching the Chad Ochocinco kind of conversation with his, I guess,
Mhm.
fiance. I'm not sure if they're still together or not. And they said that you leave with what you come with. I don't, and you know what's interesting is a lot of times we have this conversation based off of like prenups, but like in terms of community property, everything that you have right now that you built is separate property.
Yeah.
The community is what you build together. And so there really doesn't even need to be a prenup conversation because if you are worth 5 million now and you get married, she doesn't get 2.5 million. She gets whatever that 5 million turned into in between that marriage. So if you're married for 10 years and that 5 million turns to
What brought you
10,
out here
she
today?
doesn't get half of the 10. She gets half of the five that you guys accumulated during the marriage. That's what
Yeah.
community property is. So in that terms, I don't think a prenup is actually necessary. Um, I'm not necessarily for or against it. I think that's a personal decision.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even try to speak on that.
I feel you. I
Man,
feel you.
this
All
looks
right,
real
let's
clear on this picture.
let's um let's transition just a little bit. Yeah, I got the 4K, you know what I'm saying? I got the 4K red, 4K Billy. Um we align politically. Um but before I ask the question, I just wanted to lock in on this and then we'll react to it.
What brought you out here today? No, listen, my name is Noah Shorts. I use he, they pronouns. Like, I'm just really excited that we have like the first black woman that could be the president of the United States. And you know, like my wife, right? We're in a polyamorous relationship. The lover that my wife took is African American, and like I've learned so much about the struggle that people of color go through as a result of my wife's boyfriend. And so I'm excited to really do my part to show solidarity for my marginalized communities. And like the best way to do that is to get the first woman of color to be the commander in chief. And I'm really excited. I'm so pumped. Were you this pumped and excited?
So basically, man, we were almost I ain't gonna say bamboozled. Anybody can have their opinion, but we almost got Kamala out here because this guy dated a black woman. You know what I'm saying? But I got this from your tweet, from your Twitter, and kind of what's your take on it, and when we're gonna build on that.
Honestly, I just thought it's definitely satirical. It's a joke.
Mhm.
I don't think this really happened. I think he's just making fun of the whole like concept of just like the state of like the Democratic Party and
Mm-hmm.
how everything is just accepted. And call me crazy, I don't think everything should be accepted. And I don't even think that like the community as a whole believes everything should be accepted.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason why they lost the election, because they don't have a stance. The stance is whatever you want to do, we support, and that's just crazy work. You wouldn't raise your kids like that. You wouldn't accept that from a person that you're interested in romantically. So, I think the problem is like people just weren't willing to even entertain the idea, like maybe
In the mob with him, I'ma have a problem with him. Somebody call Rihanna.
instead what they're doing is they're just like blindly throwing their vote out of loyalty. And I have a problem with that because again, like I said, we need to be able to generate an original thought. If you can't generate an original thought, that's some scary stuff because that means that whoever is in power can just tell you what to think and what to do.
Yeah.
And if the policies for the Republicans was crazy and off the wall, I couldn't be blindly loyal to that. I wouldn't say that everything they do is perfect, but there's a lot that I agree with in terms of like family, business, taxes, that kind of stuff that more closely aligns with who I am and what I see for the vision of my family, as opposed to just a do whatever you want to do, anything goes kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'm just taking it you probably didn't vote for or didn't really support Kamala or just that side. Um, is there a reason for that, or is it where you're aligned politically,
Um, I think
or is it just your goals? Personally, it was my goals.
I think that what we experienced the last 4 years economically was suffocating.
Man.
And I was tired of suffocating. I was tired of watching my stocks go down. I was tired of watching my taxes go up. I was tired of small businesses struggling because a lot of people will say, well, the stock market's up. Like, yeah, like the big tech elite companies are doing great. The guys who contribute to the Democratic Party, they're doing great because in a lot of instances, they stifle innovation. In a lot of instances, liberals put all this red tape in place that just protects the people that have already made it through. And it don't really help people that are trying to make it too. And so I think that that was one of the things that I saw is like, man, like the average Joe, the person on Instagram, the person on Twitter with aspirations of building something, of building a career, of whatever that looks like, they're being stifled. They're being strangled. They couldn't afford to live. Prices are going up. Prices weren't. They said inflation was 3%. Inflation was damn near 100%. Everything costs double.
Yeah.
Cars are more expensive, homes are more expensive, food was more expensive, going out was more expensive, hotels, flights, everything was more expensive. And I was tired of it. And also I remembered what it was like during the 4 years of the prior administration. I think that's one of the things that was their disadvantage is it wasn't like they were competing against one person's, like that's what Joe Biden had the luxury of doing. Joe Biden had the luxury of saying, this is what Trump has done, but this is what I'm going to do. Versus this current election cycle, we're looking at what Trump did, and we're also looking at what they did, and we're like, well, what was better? What was more lucrative? And I think that's a large part of the reason why he won. He wasn't competing against an idea; he was competing against what people lived through.
Yeah. I think there was one part you were missing though. One
was
thing
that?
that might have changed your opinion. Let me show you.
With the state, cause he get the wild women. Put the legs on his head, now he loves high women. You'll never catch me calling these men daddy. I ain't lying, mama, just to make them happy. Lifestyle winner, can't fit her. It never happened if the wasn't happened. I'm a hot girl, I do hot. Finish in, come on my outfit. I don't take quit, cause I ain't thirsty. These dudes mad, they wanna hurt me. I'm a hot girl.
No, not your thing.
Man, the that definitely played a part in it. And then the constant like
It was embarrassing.
carousel of similar artists. So like then you have Cardi B, and then you have who else do they have? Glorilla. And I don't understand how everybody else wasn't offended at that. I don't understand how like you could look at that and say like, of all people, that's who you decided to put on stage. Like that's crazy work.
Crazy work.
And so like I really question the logic of a lot of people to see that and be like, you gotta vote for that.
Yeah. Um, on my Instagram and Twitter, I receive a lot of negative backlash for my opinions, and I'm assuming you do too. So how do you engage with your fellow brothers, your fellow Black Americans who hold different political views, and what strategies do you find effective in fostering a constructive dialogue? Because I haven't, I haven't been able to, not even with family. Like it's wild.
Interestingly enough, I'm kind of not that guy anymore. Like I still have these opinions and these views, but a lot of tweets that I put out there, I delete, man. I'll put it out there like and the reason being is because back in the day, I didn't really have too much people could attack. Now I got a lot that people can go after, and people are relentless, and they do not give a f about you. They will put you under the grave.
Yeah.
Like if people don't like you, they'll make up stuff to go after you. They'll start calling your boss, calling your job. So like I don't really have the luxury of just being that kind of no. I don't have the luxury of just freewheeling it now. I got a lot of stuff that people can attack and have tried to attack. And so I don't really go back and forth with a lot of too many people. I used to be on the internet arguing, going back and forth, trying to prove my point. Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like to a certain extent, the community is disadvantaged because of that. We silence people, and then you don't realize, like, man, that dude was out there, like, really doing a lot. You have to entertain both sides of the aisle. A lot of like that's the reason why Congress exists and why America exists the way it is, because there's validity on both sides. One person's not just right, but a lot of times what we do is our goal is to shut up the opposition, to not give you a voice, so that then they can control the narrative.
Man.
And the problem is when you overcorrect, you go a little bit too far to one side, and that's what we've done in a lot of instances. We went from this way to way too far in the other way, when really the solution's a lot of times in the middle. You don't got to be as extreme either way.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you're about to have to go outside.
What misconceptions do you think exist about Black Trump supporters, and how can we effectively address them?
I think that
Because I've been called Samuel Jackson and Django. I'm like, oh, for real? That's what we doing?
I think that the misconception is that Black Trump supporters don't put as much thought into their opinions as liberals do. They assume that you're just like out here freewheeling, repeating headlines like they are. So I think that's one. I think the other is that you're a sellout, that you don't care about your culture, when a lot of people care just as much, if not more, about their culture, but their caring looks different. And I give people the example is like your mother loves you different than your father does. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love you. It just means he loves you differently. And the other thing is, I would just say that those are two. I think they assume that you're ignorant, they assume that you're a sellout, when neither of those are necessarily true. But the problem is they don't want to hear anything to the opposite. You'll try to tell them, like, no, that's not the case. They don't care, because that's the narrative they created. That's the story, and they're sticking with it. And that helps them in their position of opposing you, is taking that stance. Like, this must be the case. I remember I was debating this one girl, and she was like assuming that because I preferred Donald Trump to be in office, that I just either wasn't successful or didn't have anything going for myself. And I was like, that's crazy work that you just assume that. Like, you're like, yeah, just because you can't succeed in a liberal economy, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
When you truly know money, you can succeed in either economy. Like, especially with the M&A stuff I do, when there's a lot of inflation, then we just use creative finance, and then there's different tactics, But at the end of the day, man, I want to see my people win, and I think we can have open dialogue. And in open dialogue, we don't have to be disrespectful. We don't have to engage in identity attacking or conceptual attacking. And whoever is watching the dialogue can make a choice based on what they think, on which way they want to go. I don't want to stop anybody from saying what they saying, but allow me to say what I say. You say what you say. But the problem is if we actually have a debate, lots of times they get washed, and halfway through the debate they realize that, and so they switch to just getting angry
An
um
attack. Yep.
and attack. Yeah. But my last question is, what vision and future do you have for the Black community in terms of political engagement, political impact, and financial impact? I'm kind of late on this, but I just read this book. Um, you probably read it, Powernomics.
Yep. Yeah, I got it over here.
Man, huge, powerful for us.
It's right here.
Yeah. What's funny is I had a meeting with a Jewish gentleman who I reached out to him to buy his company. His company ended up being worth like hundreds of millions. I couldn't afford them, but in the outreach, sometimes you get things out of your niche. And when we got on a meeting, he just wanted to know who was funding me because he needed some more funding. He had read all of my books and he had Powernomics. I noticed it on his desk and I'm like, yo, they reading our stuff and we ain't reading it. We getting washed out here. And so like it's crazy.
That's crazy.
But what future would you like for us, and something that like a goal we can achieve in the near future for Blacks?
You know, man, on one hand, the only real goal I have is for my son and my family and my wife and my household. On the other hand, I think one of the biggest like problems that we can solve is just this dating and singleness crisis that's going on.
Yeah, that's the first thing we gotta solve, man.
I think that will probably be it. Is because I think the same thing is true when you look at like the relationship and dating talk online. Like a lot of it is just like one side trying to control the whole narrative, and they don't hear nothing you got to say. If you haven't,
In the mall with her, mama have a ball with her. Somebody call Rihanna.
if you have a
Yeah, keep
counter
going.
opinion, you got to get shut down. You got to get name called. You got to get shamed. It's the same tactics they use across the board in any discussion. Anything that's opposite to the way that they think, the way they believe, it has to be shut down. And so I would say, like, I think that's the number one thing that needs to get focused on. I think everything will kind of flow from there.
Yeah. Talk about the course, all your courses, what it could do for people. I'm gonna link it in the show notes, obviously. But man, you've really done a good job of putting together curriculums and things that people could use at a MBA level, like at a top-notch level that can really make them a lot of money and help their family. Uh Talk about it. What's your favorite course, and how people could lock in.
Man, my favorite course, my favorite course,
The options trading workshop is the staple.
yeah, the options trading is the staple.
Oh, you got a REIT course on here?
I think crisis money might be my favorite one. That's where I kind of talk about um, value investing, buying on the dip, taking advantage of undervalued companies. And I have a friend who he is an accountant, and he took that course, and he was like, "Man, like this course helped me pay off my student loans."
Yeah.
And I thought that was crazy because like a lot of people don't think it's sexy. A lot of people don't think that buying low and being patient is sexy. But if you want to get six-figure ROIs, I think that's pretty good. And so I would say that, of course, the options course, Crisis Money is a good one. I like that one, Build a Six-Figure Digital Business, because I talk about digital products, I talk about marketing, I talk about the 10X factor, I talk about a lot of different things. But if you want, you got the Freedom Pack, and the Freedom Pack has everything I've ever created in there, all the books, all the digital content. And then not only that, it also has our mastermind conversations. So we have a mastermind, and all of the guest lectures are inside of the Freedom Pack. So it's not just information that I've created, it's information that experts have created on their particular niche. So I'm pretty sure Roy's in there talking a few times.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of really dope people are inside of the Freedom Pack. And that is slept on. I mean, it's not slept on. It's done very well. But it should be flying off the shelf still with how much value is in that thing.
Yo, thank you, man. Thank you for your time, man. Anytime I reach out to you, you always lock in and help me. And your audience is considerably large. And it always helps me jump off. As you can see, you got a bunch of people on here. Is there anything I should have asked or anything that you just want to leave people with before we dip out?
I think it's dope that every time I go on these podcasts, I'm getting asked to talk about marriage and relationships now, which is pretty cool. I would say that across the board, I think that we've been talking about people being able to have a conversation without the need to shut each other down, hearing each other out, and entertaining a different mindset that might actually help you come to a solution, as opposed to just becoming further and further niched into your own opinion. I think a large part of the reason why there's this singleness epidemic is because nobody's listening to other people. There's no compromise. There's no exchange of value. It's just not. This is just how I see it. If you don't see it that way, you can bounce. Yeah. And so that's hurting us because we can't do this without each other. Like I said, all of this is a team sport. And so whatever you're trying to do, it's going to require a team. And you can't have a team if you're not willing to be open to different ways that could work.
Hey, man. Todd Billy, Todd. Thank you for coming on, dropping hot fire, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who joined on live. We had a bunch of people in here, but Todd's got a dip. I got a dip. Till next time, thank you for joining. Make sure you like, make sure you share, and let me know your thoughts, man. Peace.
It's like this and like that, and no, I always get the scoop. Rest in peace to Fat Man, black fit in a black coupe. Fly, Batman at the edition, all white, about to eat something like Pac-Man. Courtside, watching Brian, getting all the stats, man. I'm that man in the booth, stacking paper, and that's facts, man. Yeah, I pray to Jesus Christ, but don't you try to play me. I'm money like the Suns with Devin Booker, Pastor Katie. Or when Mamba played the Raptors and you went 1/80. I fly like a pelican. It's like this and like that, and no, I always get the scoop. Rest in peace to Fat Man.